we started doing the research and started doing the outreach, which, quite frankly, we did a significant amount of outreach, and all the individuals who were involved in the TAP, and I won't read off their bios and their names are all in the book. I'll save a little bit of time on not doing that, but I really want to thank the professionals who are involved in the process. One thing that we did learn is that it was going to be a long time before a train came past this particular site. And so, out of that came the concept of what do you do with a site like this while you're waiting for a train? And you know, obviously there's other issues related to transit activity, such as buses and a number of different things. But it kind of struck me as that our challenge in this particular site was to develop a solution that was terribly complicated because of the nature of the site, again, being owner property, having a recalcitrant property owner, being in what was a power area of Garden Road at one point in time, and through all kinds of machinations of land use, things have shifted, and we had this site, 30-acre site. And so our challenge is to, in fact, deal with the real issues. And so the real issue is where do we go from TOD?
Through our data collection, through the due diligence, that would actually describe for us what opportunities and what constraints we could make and recommend to the City of Garden Grove. Having said that at the outset, though, we did want to establish some type of vision, and you see that behind me. With that as a vision, we really developed some other guiding principles, and it's on the next slide. And each member of the TAP then undertook their data collection and due diligence using these guiding principles to really place the trajectory of our discussion. It goes from the market research, research into transportation, and the others that you see up there. And as we went in and dug deeper and peeled away at the onion, there were many, many facets that really led us to the conclusion that a TOD was really not possible within the standard development horizons that everybody was thinking about. We also realized, too, that great places aren't built with a brush stroke, that they actually evolve over time. And with that, we started to reassess our process and what our product would actually come to. As for the constraints that avail themselves, well, we too, like the Laguna Hills example, have a fractured ownership structure. Many owners with different interests, different directions, different objectives. I think one of the greatest obstacles for a TOD in a short horizon, Baxter already alluded to, is that right now, although there is this wonderful asset, the P&E right-of-way, right to the south of us, the planning and the programming and the funding is well off into the future. The Go Local projects that would consider a rubber-tired solution or a fixed guideway for a portion of that under OCTA's direction are moving along, but not at a very brisk pace. There might even be some opposition from some of the other cities along the route to the implementation of a transit solution in that corridor. And in fact, there have been parts of the P&E right-of-way that have been sold away. We also find that SCAG is undertaking their master vision for the overall right-of-way to possibly incorporate into a blue line or a red line, green line extensions. But again, those are just in the infancy stages, and there's only been the preliminary meetings out in the communities of that. That doesn't bode well for a plan that happens now. What we did see, though, when we actually went out to the site and spoke to representatives of the city and the ownership interests, wonderful opportunities to take items at the human scale, exploit them, and enhance them. Just to the north, there's a very, very good retail center with a very strong node that happens to have some great linkages across Brookhurst and Chapman to this site. And that if we were to, in fact, encourage and enhance, monument a lot of those linkages, we could get that pedestrian linkage across the center and start a conversation that would get people out of their cars and look at other alternate modes. Walking, cycling, park once, I think I heard from the Laguna Hills example. That's a mantra that we also adopted as well. Park the car once and have your experience within the site over many different trip purposes. There's good fixed route service along both Brookhurst and Chapman for bus, so we can bring many patrons and users of the facility in outside of the car. And what ends up happening is the project, in fact, develops over time in response to the changing environment of transportation. And in so doing, you lay a foundation that starts at the pedestrian level, takes its steps from transit and transportation and the good works of OCTA, but then can adapt to the final expression of what happens at the P&E right-of-way. And we looked at assembling the properties. We looked at what the land use opportunities would be if that were the evolution. And we believe that if that is what is followed, that's how Great Place is made. It has a story, it has a foundation, it had a start, and it has a trajectory and a future. Once we got to that point and described that process, and as you see in the report, laid out what that possibly could look like, I think one of the most important things that we did on behalf of the city was to really start to look at what the next steps would be. The city right now is underway with the general plan update. They're looking at their zoning code. Perfect opportunity to start the conversation with the community on how to affect change at this site. So we made recommendations, structural recommendations to the zoning code, to different types of zoning opportunities, to specific plan, and possibly even development agreement opportunities here. The Platinum Triangle in Anaheim is a wonderful example and a precedent-setting example of the use of development agreements to create development opportunities out there. We went even beyond that, though, and said, what could some next steps be for the city to engage the community? And recommended items such as media blasts to one-on-one opportunities between city leadership and the ownership stakes at this site, so that that entire dialogue, and again, that conversation could start now, so that there would be opportunities to have this evolve over time and really take advantage, not of a land use plan, but of transportation opportunities that would build a community center. That was, I think, when we really saw what the process here resulted in a product and how we really saw and measured our success. But I think really to speak about success, you've got to talk to the man on my right here, and I'd like to just introduce you to Matt.
Thank you.